To put it simply, Minecraft is big, vast, expansive. Okay, you get the point, but one could also argue that with all its towering peaks and cavernous caves, it's also empty. But that's where we, the players, come in. We are provided with a sandbox to let our imaginations run wild with color and wonder. In a game as big as this, with hundreds of building blocks to choose from, do you have a favorite? I would have to say mine is copper, and with the new update, the Copper Age, dropping recently, I'm looking forward to using it a lot more. But before we update our game, I want to build an essential farm for copper. A bee farm. Up until this point, I've been using a little 3-hive manual farm I've hidden back behind the barn. But for this new build, I need to wax close to 10 stacks of copper, so this thing just isn't cutting it anymore. Jumping straight into it, I started the build off with digging a hole in the ground that will become the farm. I'm building the farm first because it will have time to work in the background while I gather the rest of the resources needed for the build. But after the hole was dug, I began building out the basement with walls of deep slate and tuff, a floor of various stones, and arched insets with a ton of storage. More than I'll probably ever need, but it looks nice. Next, I started to add elements of the farm, including the hopper line, dispensers, and glass enclosure before finishing the walls with more deep slate and tuff. Looking back on this, I think I could have spruced up the farm a bit by adding decorative honey blocks, or some type of abstract bee to say, hey look, this is a bee farm. But maybe I'll go back and do that in the future. To finish out the farm, I put a variety of flowers down and placed in the hives. So with the farm now done, I needed to let it run to accumulate enough honeycomb. So I laid out the first round of copper to age while I went and collected the other resources I needed. But that's not all. At the end of episode 3, when I built the barn, I mentioned coming back to it and possibly putting a wool farm under it. Well, I also did that while waiting for the copper to age. Going down, it's a pretty standard wool farm. No, it's not completely done, as you can see by the unfinished walls and lack of detail. But I have one side of it completely dedicated to light gray wool, because you can never have enough, and one side of it for all the other colors. Okay, it's a day or two later, and the resources are collected, and the copper has finally aged. But I'm going to start off by building the environment around where the greenhouse will sit. So you can see I've built this rock and put in a bunch of ground cover. I actually really like how it's come out, with the nether sprouts bringing in a much needed pop of color. I like it so much, in fact, I think I might go back and put this method in around all my other previous builds. And of course, I couldn't not add a few trees, because that's my thing these days, I guess. I don't really want it to be my thing, but they do make every build look better, so I guess I'll keep doing it. And a few more for good measure. Here's something new. I decided to add in a pumpkin patch off the right side of the path, because I think that's something you'd find outside of a greenhouse. I'm using a mix of nether sand, or whatever it's called, I honestly can't remember, and podzol to give the ground a muddy look. And then I went and planted a good number of pumpkins while also using already grown ones. You can tell by the sea pickles. And then it was time to tackle the rather large beetroot field. You'll notice it looks like I missed a circle of ground, but don't worry, that was intentional. I want to put something there, maybe another large tree or a fire pit. I don't know, we'll come back to it later though. After the beetroots, I turned my attention to flowers. I got this really cool idea from a fantastic creator named Barce. Shout out to him. But the idea is to download a mod that allows you to clump flowers together to make them look full. But what I didn't know was Lightmatica would only count 1 for every 5 placed. So I gathered what was listed only to find out in the moment that I needed hundreds more. This led me to build flower farms around my world in order to gather them all. And that took much longer than I thought it would. To finish this back area off, I wanted something unique and practical. So I came up with this glowberry field built into the slope of the land. And of course, there has to be more trees back here too. This whole backside will probably be an entire forest at some point. Okay, let's finally, and I mean finally, get to the greenhouse. And to end off the project, I'm building a small bridge over the river. Before we go inside, let's have a little peek with some complementary shaders. Yeah, I'm real happy with that. Let's go in. Let's shut the door and we'll start on this elevated landing with small flower beds by each door and pots on the shelves above. Down the small set of stairs to the right, we can see the magic of this build. I wanted to pack every square inch of the greenhouse wings with as much plant life as possible, and it needed to be as aesthetic as possible. As you can see, we have hanging planters for the glowberries and hanging roots and the spore blossoms. Moving ahead is a custom mini birch tree with a neat dripstone formation looming over it. There's another small custom tree that uses cactuses and pots and cherry leaves. And you'll also notice that I left some areas blank so I could add new stuff as it comes out. And there's a custom jungle tree arching over the path. Over on the other side, we have a representation of each of the crops. Sugarcane and bamboo. Some more blank space, and a small water feature that I think I want to stock with the axolotls once I get around to getting all of them. And crossing back over to the other side, we can take the stairs down to the basement to the bee farm. But okay guys, that's gonna have to do it for this build and video. I want to apologize for this video taking so long, but real life priorities keep getting in the way of my Minecraft journey. That, and well, at the last second I decided to redesign this greenhouse. You can see in my test world what I originally wanted it to be, but I felt like it looked too out of place in a more rural setting that I'm currently building, and decided to do something simpler. All of that took time. With this build completed, I'm eager to update my game to the current version. I've been stuck on 21.5 for far too long, and I'm also going to be looking to move more into the endgame by beating the dragon and obtaining the elytra and shulker boxes. I'll be beating the wither to gain a beacon because the next phase of building requires me to dig and smooth out a large plot of land. You can actually see I've already started doing that just over the new bridge. And I think it's about time I venture onto the nether roof. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and if this is your first time on my channel, consider subscribing. And don't forget to leave a comment. I love hearing from you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.